All right, everybody, welcome back. Sam's Army. Episode USMNT versus New Zealand in the new lingo we're going with. We're going to talk about one thing and one thing only today, and that's the U.S. men's national team's complete and utter schmortion of a window saved by the belated and desperately needed announcement that Mauricio Pochettino is going to win us a World Cup. And what a wild statement to make coming off of an embarrassing loss to Canada and arguably a worse draw at home against New Zealand. But first, let me welcome in my fellow agitated adjutant in arms for this episode, Mr. Tyler Terrens. I'm not even going to ask you an intro question because, we're a little just too hot and bothered at this point. So, there's a lot going on right now. We're focusing on USMNT. I know there's a big weekend of Premier League coming up. We're going to get to that maybe tomorrow, sometime soon. Right now, U.S. soccer, we lost to Canada. We drew with New Zealand, but we named Mauricio Pochettino our official manager. So where do you want to start, sir?
Oh, man. I think a vibe check is in order, just like an overall what went down this window and what didn't go down and how we feel exiting the window. Let's start with this. Nobody likes this window. Mikey Podcast doesn't like this window. Tony Meola, U.S. men's national team legend who loves international football, this is the only window he doesn't like. Everybody hates this window. This is nonsensical. It's egregious. It's in your face. It ruins the domestic league. Arsenal fans are already shitting in their pants about what's wrong with Martin Odegaard because of his injury coming off for Norway. Nobody likes this window. So let's get that out of the way, and I think that is proper context to now talk about what has gone on with the U.S. But at the same time, Samuel, as much as we don't like this window and as much as this window doesn't quote-unquote mean anything, as much as if Spurs were to go out and smash Bournemouth 6-0 after their performance against Newcastle, which of course you deemed a top four worthy performance, and yes, I'm going to bring that back up. The saying you can only play who's in front of you is going to be brought up, correct? You can only play who's in front of you.
Correct.
We can either continue to sit and bitch and moan and whine about how the U.S. don't get opportunities to play against top-level talent. Well, we did this summer in Copa America, and we fucked that up. And now here we see ourselves again in an international window, and I'm no mathematician, but there ain't a ton of windows left in between now and 2026. So with that in mind and bringing this full circle, we can only play who we can play. And our schedule was Canada and New Zealand. After everything Jesse Marsch said, why the fuck wouldn't you get up for that game? Mikey Varas, whoever the hell he is, San Diego FC's new coach apparently, called out the players in a post-game press conference and said their mentality wasn't right. They didn't get up for the game. Fair, but what the fuck does he have to do with any of this? Mikey Varas. And I said in the group text, I was like, we should have brought in Tab Ramos, Tony Meola, somebody from the 94 team, much like a lot of other countries will do. When they know they're in a caretaker state and they need somebody to just get from point A to point B, and whoever's that person in the middle, is just going to be somebody who's going to remind the group what it means to put the badge on. I'm sorry, but Mikey Varas ain't it. How is that going to get anybody excited to come into camp? How is that going to get anybody excited to put on the badge? How is that not going to tip off Jesse Marsch exactly what we were going to do for the entirety of that Canada game? Empty seats at both Children's Mercy Park and TQL. The whole vibe of this entire camp was rotten. On top of the fact we didn't sign Pochettino. And then we signed him 5 minutes before kickoff of the New Zealand game. And like you and I were talking about, what is that? Now, granted, I still think that the entirety of this stall and not being able to sign Poch was due to Chelsea's situation. Mm-hmm. I firmly believe that. I think that Jadon Sancho and Raheem Sterling, unfortunately, were directly responsible for the U.S. men's national team not having a head coach during this window. As crazy and as whacked out as that sounds, I think that's true. Okay? And I know I'm going on a bit of a rant here, but this is all to say that, like, I don't think that Poch could be taking over a worse situation than what we have right now. The only way it could have been worse is if we lost to New Zealand. And if that was the case, I'm jumping out of this 17th floor Chicago hotel room that I'm in right now. So that's where I want to start. I want to start with giving everybody the context of sort of what's gone down, the results that occurred, and we'll get into the games. But Poch now takes over a situation in which I think that we all need to take a long, hard look at what the expectation is for this group. And I'll be the first one to raise my hand and say, after that Brazil performance leading into Copa America, I actually thought we were heading in the right direction. Why wouldn't I believe that against Brazil? Little did we know that, like, Brazil we knew that they weren't what they once were. And I think that that's fair to sort of put into all this. But I was confident. I was like, that I can work with. That looks like a program that's moving in the right direction to host a World Cup in a couple of years. Now, I don't know what to make of any of this. And Pochettino's got a lot of shit to sort through. And the guys who put on the jersey for the past couple of games, you saw it on Pulisic's face at full time against New Zealand. He had a look of, what the fuck just happened?
He was pissed.
Pissed. As he should be. As all of them should be. Nobody should be posting on Instagram, super excited about their first cap, saying, here we go again, disappointed, but we'll be back. I hate all that shit. When you put out a dog shit performance, you don't get to post on Instagram about it. I hate all of that. So anyway, I feel like that's a decent place to start in terms of, like, how we all feel and sort of the vibe coming out of this camp and also what it was entering it. Yeah, that all makes sense.
Listen, you touched on pretty much everything right there, which is good. It's good. You laid a foundation. I'm gonna touch on a few things here, and we can sort of bounce off that.
Yeah.
Mikey Varas. I think that, number one, I don't know anything. I
exactly
don't know anything about
I don't think
him.
he doesn't have a Wikipedia page. I know commentators who have Wikipedia pages. Mikey Varas doesn't. I don't, but I know commentators who do.
Somebody listening here, get Tyler a goddamn Wikipedia page. Number one. Number two, the thing about Mikey Varas, I think that he is going to be kind of a whipping boy, kind of a sacrificial lamb. He's just going to be thrown under the bus. He has a
Wikipedia page, by the way. I typed in Mikey a few days ago, and it didn't pop up. I think somebody might have just made it for him in the middle of this window. But anyway, continue.
Well, there we go. Listen, I feel like he's kind of going to be the sort of whipping boy of this situation. He was put in a tough situation, right? I mean, I agree with you. It would have been better to bring somebody that just has a resume. People know him, even if it's just for the fans.
Again, even if it's not somebody who, like, has a ton of coaching experience, but like a legend of the federation. We are in such a transitional, fragile moment, and to take a Greg Berhalter disciple and to plug him in to the next chapter of this federation, which is not going to have any Greg Berhalter fingerprints on it, that seems that seems to be insane to me. That is an insane decision to make him the head coach, unless nobody wanted to touch it, which
is possible.
Which is possible.
You know what I noticed is probably his biggest problem is the fact that he has the same haircut as Christian Pulisic. So you walk into the locker room and you're going to try and, like, have some gravitas and tell Pulisic and everybody else what to do, and you got the same haircut. You can't be rocking that. You sound like
Colin. You sound like Colin Coward being upset with JJ Redick about wearing a backwards hat. That's what you sound like right now.
Well, listen, he's got the little full on. It's faded. It's just like, listen, bro, you look exactly from the back. It was like you got Pulisic's haircut. You can't go into a locker room with the same haircut as a player,
as your number 10. Yeah.
You just can't do that. You can't do it. So strike one. That one's actually on Mikey Varas. All the other things, I think, is really out of his control, and I think he's just going to be kind of the whipping boy.
He was put in an impossible spot,
yes,
but like,
terrible
yeah,
spot.
yeah.
Terrible spot. Now, let's talk about sort of let's quickly Canada. Was there any silver? So this was Fan Appreciation Night, by the way. Fan Appreciation Night.
Where was it Fan Appreciation Night? Tell me where.
I don't know. But like it was, Fan Appreciation Night in Kansas City, which is a hotbed of USMNT. It's kind of like, the de facto, at least it was, the de facto sort of.
Outside of Ohio, it is the de facto home venue for the U.S. Like,
right.
I would expect them to show out every single opportunity there's a U.S. men's national team or women's national team game. Available.
And on top of that, they apparently kind of have been giving a lot of discounts and stuff like that to lower the ticket prices, because that was obviously one of the huge things I've been talking about forever, is that they never lowered
when the
games
mattered during the World Cup qualifiers and everything like that. Yeah, of course, the tickets were impossible to get.
Well, listen, they were keeping the ticket prices high, even on friendlies where it did not matter.
I know.
But they did lower ticket prices, and we still had. I could read Sporting on the stands, because there were that
place is packed for a midweek Sporting Kansas City Minnesota United game, and I say that because I know that, and that's diabolical for both stadiums. Listen, that says everything.
That says everything. That says everything about where the fan base is right now, and they basically
But it also goes back. It goes back to the first. It goes back to the first point that I made in that nobody cares about the September international window. They're like, we just saw this team shit in their own fart in Copa America. Why are they playing again when I want to be watching Liverpool, Arsenal, Spurs, Chelsea, and Manchester United on Saturdays? Why are they playing again? So that also should be taken into account for this. This is not the November international window or the March one when people are actually paying attention.
That's fair. Shit in their own fart is a new one for me.
It's not. That. It's from Succession. I wish I could take credit for it, but it's in reference to Tom. Or is it Tom? Yeah, I think it's Tom. And they said, in front of, the court or whatever, that he shitted in his own fart, which I just will continuously use on this podcast from here on out.
That's amazing. You're right. We have to sort of take that with a grain of salt, but I do think the lack of interest and, the lack of, and I'm just sort of taking this off of the amount of tweets I'm seeing, the amount of engagement on Instagram. People were not into this window. And yes, that is partially the window to blame. I think that is a big part of it, is the fact that people are turned off, or at least not turned on, about the USMNT right now. We're just not, And so that's what we've been talking about for months, if not years. That's what Pochettino brings to the table, hopefully, right? He's a new coach, change the culture. My guy Mike, change the coach, change the culture. Shit, as I hit the mic. Amateur hour over here. We needed that change, so that the new announcement, or the announcement of the new coach, came at it's not the perfect time. The perfect time was a couple weeks ago, so he could have coached this goddamn window. The fact he didn't is part of the problem. Part of the problem, Federation needs to take ownership of that they screwed up. We didn't have a coach for this goddamn window. Now the players need to take ownership for the performances.
Chelsea's fault. Yeah, it's Chelsea's fault.
We'll blame. Listen, there. You want to throw it at Sterling and Jadon Sancho? I'm good with that.
And by the way, we probably should have explained. If anybody's listening to the podcast for the first time, if you haven't listened in a few weeks, the biggest reason why Pochettino didn't sign is because his severance package from Chelsea, which of course was the last employer that he had, was not sorted out, and they had a whole laundry list of things they needed to get done before they took care of Pochettino's severance package, which then would enable him to be able to coach the U.S. men's national team because of sort of the structure of his previous contract when he was coaching, who he's allowed to coach and who he's not, and the money that he gets when he does take a new job, but it wasn't a European job. So that's why we're blaming Chelsea for all this, not because we want to just blame Chelsea for everything, which I would be happy to do for the rest of my life, but they are actually to blame for a lot of this.
And by the way, the owners are apparently in a civil war.
Yes, and Chelsea is about to, Chelsea might go into administration. Yeah.
I think Chelsea's in a whole world of pain and just clown showness. And by the way, the two coaches for the USMNT and U.S. women's national team?
Both from Chelsea.
Yeah. Anyway, but let's get back to the players, because honestly, I think there's a lot to talk about there. the performances this window were god awful. We've already touched on that. You know, I mean, we could just sit here and sort of harp on that over and over and over. Is there any silver linings from this window? Any players that maybe I do have the question. I would like who boosted their stock, who hurt their stock.
Yeah.
What do you think?
You and I were talking about this a little bit before we came on. I do think Marlon Fossey showed well. I mean, I'll be the first one to raise my hand and say I had no idea who he was. I had heard his name once at some point in time.
Fucking
great hair. Great hair. Donate to the Tyler Terrence Hair Foundation. I'll send you my Venmo or my Hairmo. Other than that, I mean, everybody for the most part, I think, was sort of net neutral, and then there were those that shitted in their own fart and did not show well.
I'm gonna throw two. I gotta get. I feel like I'm always looking for like a silver lining.
I know.
A positive here.
I know.
I know you know. So I'm gonna throw two names at you that I do think actually helped themselves. I think Aiden Morris played well this window, and he's coming off of.
I still think that there were some shaky moments, but yes, even late in the New Zealand game, I thought that he gave the ball away a couple of times where I'm just like, the fuck are we doing?
Yeah. Not flawless.
Not flawless, but dude, he's a gamer. He's a gamer, and I've been on the Aiden Morris train, and I'm like, why hasn't he just been in camp and been around this group more? But at the end of the day, a healthy U.S. men's national team, where does he fall on the depth chart?
Yeah.
I'd rather bring 6 strikers because, and I know we'll get to it, but none of them want the position, so I'd rather have 6 of them so that I could choose when the other 3 fuck up, and I can just roll out the next 3.
Listen, we'll get to the striker situation in a minute.
Yeah.
So Aiden Morris is the one I had thrown on. Also Patrick Schulte. So he played, I think, probably the best game of anybody against Canada, which is
bad.
Not saying much.
Which is bad.
Not saying much at all. But he was coming off the Olympic performance, which everybody remembers the France game, and he's like, I do think he could have done better in that one, but he was kind of tarred by the performance there, where I don't think he had a terrible Olympics, but
we were never beating France.
Right.
And
listen, I mean that performance was pretty impressive overall. We lost,
but yeah.
Anyway, I think Patrick Schulte, he was. People were like, "Oh wow, he's starting this game against Canada," and I think a lot of people were surprised by that, probably myself included, to be honest. And he played well. I mean, he made some big saves. We could have lost to Canada.
Shocker that a goalkeeper who plays every single week is in form and looks like he knows what he's doing. Shocking.
Fair enough. Listen,
shocking.
Matt Turner, friend of the program, does not play every week, and he looked pretty okay.
I'm not saying he looked bad, but what I'm saying is that maybe Zach Steffen should have been involved. I'm not going to totally hop on that train. I'm not co-signing whatever their social media team put out saying that it's diabolical that he wasn't part of it. I don't understand it. I understand it, but I am interested to see what Pochettino's going to do with this position and the others, because he's not tainted by any of this. There's no Jurgen Klinsmann this. There's no Greg Berhalter that. There's no Soccer United Marketing this or U.S. Soccer Federation that. He is going to bring in the players that he thinks is going to help the team. And hopefully that's going to be untainted, whether it's MLS or Europe or Tanzania or Malaysia or wherever, whoever is eligible for the United States men's national team. It shouldn't matter if he thinks that they have a place on a 20-something man roster heading into the World Cup, then they should come and play. It doesn't matter. That's it.
Preach, brother.
Thank you.
I co-sign that all day, every day. So those are the very few players I had sort of written down as.
That's a short list.
That is a
short list, my brother.
Considering how many players actually played, which I guess we got to give Mike Varas a little credit there. I'm looking for reasons to give him little golf claps.
He took the job. The job.
There. Okay, 2 golf.
But he already had a job lined up at San Diego FC, so this was funny money to him.
And raise your profile, and also get a picture with Christian Pulisic in the same hair.
With the same hair.
Yeah, which that's not good. Mikey, we got to work on that. Anyway, okay, so now we got the players who, do you want to go the ones that I kind of have in the middle and I'm not sure about, or the ones
you mean the rest of the roster?
Pretty much everybody. Okay, fine. Yeah. We'll just throw everybody in that.
Then everybody else is in there.
That absolutely hurt their stock, and there are some people here. Now, some of these include some of our longtime soldiers. In fact, one of the longest time, Tim Ream.
I mean,
that performance.
It was going to happen. It was going to happen at some point.
Oof, that felt like a swan song. That felt like.
But you know something. I understand the sentiment in starting him in that game.
Yeah.
And while we're going through this transitional, fragile stage in the Federation, who are you going to throw in there, Mr. Reliable? I would have done the same exact thing.
Yeah.
You don't know that it's not working anymore until it stops working. It has stopped working.
It did against Canada. I mean, listen, I was on record as saying, like, if Ream starts in World Cup 2022, something has gone wrong. But did that actually occur? I'm not sure. He may have overproduced. He may have overproduced.
He definitely did.
He was way better than I was expecting. I think we've reached the point where you got to call it.
And the haters are going to say it's MLS's fault since he went to Charlotte FC.
Right.
But
he's been there 2 days. He's been there 2 days.
If anybody has an issue, if anybody is actually believing that while you're driving to your job right now, and you think that Charlotte FC has made Tim Ream a bad soccer player, you can at me on Twitter, TN Terrence, please and thank you.
Let him know, not me. Other people on the list of potential stock hurters, Chris Richards. Speaking of center backs, Chris Richards does not play well against Canada.
I told you. I like him. I don't think he's a starting center back for this team. Just don't. I don't know who the other one is. I don't know who should be in his place right now.
CB1, we're CB2 right now.
and how did we get here? Because in 2021, it was definitive. It was Miles Robertson and it was Tim Ream. And now we have no idea. And even before that, it was John Brooks and Miles Robinson. And now we don't have a clue. Do you know how many positions we could put a question mark up at right now? Goalkeeper, both center backs, striker, at least one midfielder, because we don't know in terms of like who's going to be there, not do we have quality there, because we obviously have quality. We're just going to have to drop one of our best players because the system that Greg had implemented, and maybe we're definitely going to play a different system under Poch. But there's 3 or 4 positions where we just genuinely don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Less than 2 years away from a World Cup.
No big deal. And no, do we have any meaningful games between now and then?
Gold Cup?
Nations League? Does that even count, Nations League?
They're both periods. They're exclamation points. They're not question marks. Those things will happen before the World Cup.
True, but I was more thinking Gold Cup is meaningful. Is Nations League? Do we care?
Well, you know something, with the way that the calendar works out, because the finals for Nations League and the semis and the finals end up being in the March window,
right?
Which is much more conducive to the European player. The Gold Cup happens during the summer, so it's vice versa. It's actually, we care more about Nations League because that's going to be our A team, and that's going to be more of a dress reherssal than Gold Cup will be, because Gold Cup will end up being a lot of MLS guys.
That was like
that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Other guys that I think hurt their stock, Johnny Cardoso. He had a shocker against Canada. Obviously, the goal was I have no idea what he was thinking on that. It's tough to just sort of throw him out just because of one bad play. That was a terrible pass that he gave up. But he also just didn't play well. If there's a player who's up there with Tim Ream in terms of what the F, and Tim Ream has an excuse. Like, the guy has been he's been out there for years and years and years and doing it. Yunus Musa, what is going on, my brother? I mean,
he's done this before.
He can look so good. So good.
He can look like the best player on our team, and he can also look like he doesn't belong in the starting 11.
He did not look like he belonged. I mean, he didn't look like he belonged on the 18.
But again, I bring this back to the window that we're competing in, and the fact that guys were left off for rest purposes, whether it be Weston or Jedi. Like, guys were simply left off because this window is not important enough for them to risk their long-term health, which I think then sends a trickle-down vibe to everybody else, which is that this isn't as important as... Now, granted, any time you pull on the shirt and any time you pull on the badge, it should be important. But
I was going to say,
I'm with you. I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of somebody who plays for AC Milan and is coming off Copa America and then is asked to go back to camp, even though not everybody's going to be there. There's an interim head coach. We don't know who the head coach is going to be, but we kind of know. that all to me, whether it's right or wrong, is directly correlated to the performances that we saw. I'm not saying it's the right thing, and I'm not saying that like they get a pass because they did this. I'm just trying to put myself in the shoes of a 22, 23-year-old who's going through all of that.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. I was gonna say like,
I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm nauseated. I get it.
Couple questionable ones. What'd you think of Brendan Aronson this window? He's a guy that comes in with a lot of criticism, but also
he's performed much better in this window than he has in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Still not stellar, and I think that the connective tissue from the midfield to the attacking third was almost nowhere to be found for both games. But I thought that Brendan was at least trying and was showing more of what he's been producing at the club level than he has in years past. So Brendan gets a timid thumbs up from me.
Timid thumbs up.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it. Mark McKenzie.
I mean, people are going to blame him for the goal, but like,
I think Wiley actually was the Was it
Wiley? No, McKenzie. No, McKenzie was the one who got the last foot to it before it came off of what's his face.
And it was Wiley's header. Was it Wiley's header that didn't go anywhere?
Well, the header wasn't great. No. But I'm saying like the clearance itself was McKenzie, wasn't it?
I'd have to look back.
I think
know it was Wiley and McKenzie together.
It was such a ridiculous play, and I was out to dinner too while watching the game, and it was just like anyway.
It was stupid.
Again, I told you I wanted to see Austin Trusty. I know what Mark McKenzie is. I wanted to see Austin Trusty next to. I said I wanted to see him next to Tim Ream. I didn't want to see him next to Tim Ream anymore. God bless you, Tim Ream, but I'm sorry.
Great soldier.
Not a timid thumbs up. Just meh.
Yeah.
With the rest of the group, for the most part, outside of who do we call out? Patrick Schulte and
Aidan Morris.
Morris. Sure.
Good question. Strikers. I mean, we had Balogun played a lot of minutes. Haji Wright played a lot of minutes. Pepe played a lot of minutes. Varas, listen, I'm trying to look for little golf claps to give him here. He played those guys a lot and together, which they have not been doing.
Our goals were scored after a scrappy Aidan Morris generated play, and Luca Della Torre with the sitter of all sitters and just had to pass it into the goal. And Christian Pulisic coming on after a pretty good team move. I will say that was one of the good few times that we looked like we actually know what we're doing.
Well played by Balogun, by the way.
Well played by Balogun. Yeah. Move the ball.
Yeah.
One touch. Get it out from underneath your feet. Find the next open man. Fucking shocking. Shocking turn of events. I've been on this train for weeks, for months. We have no idea who our starting striker is, what they're supposed to do, and if we have anybody who's capable of doing what they're supposed to do, even if they knew what they were supposed to do. If you're following any of that.
And it's just more of the same, and more of the same being whoever is called in and whoever plays, their stock goes incrementally down, and whoever wasn't called in and or did not play, their stock goes up. Josh Sargent,
Brandon Vasquez.
stock goes up.
By that logic, Brandon Vasquez is our starting number 9 right now. You're laughing, but if we had one more game in this window, and the rest of them shit in their own fart again, Brandon Vasquez would be called in for the next camp. You know he would.
I mean, he might be anyway.
Again, this is going to be fascinating with Poch coming in and being able to pick this with a clean slate.
Yeah.
Not by what has happened in the past, not by Pepe not being selected for the World Cup, despite the fact he was the one who fucking got us there. Like, none of that matters. It is simply going to be who fits his system from a character standpoint, because you know he's going to look all these guys in the eye and look into their soul and be able to figure out whether or not they're going to be a part of his plans. So I am so excited just to see who's going to be in the next camp. Forget how we're going to play. I just want to see who he's going to select.
Like it's like there's so many good things about Pochettino, and yes, I'm saying that as a Spurs fan, and I have sort of the romantic memories of what he did with Tottenham. But there's so much more than him as a good coach. He comes in with a resume that players will have to sort of respect. I'm not trying to take more shots at Mikey Varas, but like, look at Mikey Varas' resume and Pochettino's resume. It's like, obviously night and day. Then he comes in with no strings attached, right? MLS, sum, all this stuff. Whether it's perceived or reality, he has no strings attached. He has no relationships with players, and sort of, good or bad, Gio Reyna. I love everything about bringing Pochettino, and that's just from a team standpoint. Then you bring in the fact that, hopefully anyway, fingers crossed, he will sort of get the fan base a little more on side than they are right now.
And way more on side. I mean, the first game, I don't know where again, we don't know where it's going to be. We don't. Do we know where it's going to be the next game?
I think it's going to be Texas.
Texas, okay. Panama and Mexico, right? Those are the two games that we're playing.
Mexico. And it's going to be at Mexico.
That's right. That's going to be at Mexico.
Yep.
I'm telling you, the amount of hype and the eyeballs on that game in this country will be 10 times that of what we saw. Maybe that's an exaggeration, but still, at least it's getting me excited that we finally have a coach.
It's in Austin, by the way. It's at Q2 in Austin.
Okay.
So, I mean, that... Oh, God. I'm just so excited to see... I'm excited and intrigued. Because, as you said, like, the roster that he brings to that first window is going to be so interesting to see. Like, who are the goalkeepers going to bring? Who are the strikers he's going to bring?
I bet you Zach Steffen will be one of the goalkeepers he brings.
And is this just like I've been talking about with the strikers? His stock went up because he wasn't called in? Is that
no? I think that he's a veteran amongst boys outside of Matt Turner, and I think that he's made a lot of mistakes this year for Colorado, but he's also won them some pretty big games. And if you ask anybody around Colorado's organization right now, from a locker room standpoint, he's been invaluable, and he just seems like a good, salt of the earth, hardworking dude. That's if you're Pochettino, what else do you want out of a goalkeeper? Like, again, and I get the whole like we need a goalkeeper of the future, and where does Gaga fit into all this and everything like that. Fuck goalkeeper of the future and everything. This is all about 26. If you want a goalkeeper of the future there to sit on the bench and soak in the experience, fine, bring Gaga. But your other two goalkeepers should be strictly based upon who is playing their best soccer. And if you're only playing in fucking Carabao Cup and third-round FA Cup games, you're not playing your best soccer. I'm sorry. You're just not.
On the other hand, it's a goalkeeper. I mean, they just stand around. So let's keep that in mind here.
Oh, boy.
Let's go to a couple of the comments we've gotten on Instagram. Let's see. Heinrich 8_8. Fossey is better than Kucherea. That's fair. That's better hair. I have never seen him flop, so that's 2 wins for Fossey right there. If the Poch don't fit, we must have quit. That's a good line. Stephen Hubner. Poch won't coddle them. He won't play favorites. He'll bring a new level of intensity and focus. I'm excited. Cosign. Couldn't agree more. Jamie Cap. As a Chelsea supporter, seeing Emma Hayes and Pochettino come to the U.S., I love it. The familiarity they have should be great. I'm curious to hear what you think of the 2 club coaches taking the leap. Poch can clearly perform under pressure. What makes you think he can pull the same rabbit out here? Fair question, but I think the fact that he's done it before, and he brings a gravitas that a lot of guys that I'm sure were on our list probably don't have.
And Spurs and Southampton were way more fitted to what he's capable of, opposed to Chelsea and PSG. I think that much is clear.
And don't forget Espanyol.
Not just based upon the results that he got at those respective clubs that I just named, but also just like who he is at his core. I think, and like the style that he wants to play. Like, he's going to ask a lot of these guys physically, and he's going to ask a lot of them from like a holistic standpoint as well. And again, I said this on a few pods ago, he loves the concept of the national team. And he also respects what the domestic league within that country means to that national team. And I say that directly linked to Spurs. When he was at Spurs, he felt like he had an obligation to mold players, meaning Kyle Walker, Harry Kane, Danny Rose. he felt like he had a direct responsibility to the FA to get guys on Spurs to be a part of those camps for England. So with that in mind, I think that to answer his question, like, I think that this is the perfect opportunity for him, and I also think it's going to be very good for MLS as well, because I think that he is going to like balance those two things and understand those two things are meant to be in, you know, simpatico and not at odds with each other.
Stop. My boner can only take so much.
Listen, man, you need a little help over there?
I got time to call a doctor. Aiden Smart. Not worried. New era next month. That's optimism. I love that.
Sure.
The Unreal BS. That's a hell of a name. Filled with excitement. Okay, just like Aiden Smart. Horrified over recent past. Fair. Begging FIFA to immediately drop us to mid-30s. Then we can take 3 steps forward and win 2026 World Cup. Fair, but then I don't get to drop the danglies on Mexico, so I kind of hit and miss there.
Listen, Mitchell Goulet is going to be all over your ass the moment that you're posting any more danglies
do you think that,
anything inappropriate.
What do you think he thought about the freedom boner that I posted on?
Well, he wasn't available tonight, and he typically is always available. So my guess is that he's on a date and doesn't have time for your shit. is what I gathered from all this.
That's probably true. Shout out Kieran Goulet. This was potentially the worst international window in the history of U.S. men's team soccer from Bryce.
This guy's never heard of Cuba.
Yeah, right. So we're already. Listen, I've erased 2017 from my mind as well. So I guess
Trinidad exists.
How can we find some meaningful games?
That's okay. We need to stop with that. It doesn't exist. Meaningful games don't exist anymore. Nations League is the most meaningful thing that we're going to get up until 26, and I'm sorry, that's just the way that it is. We need to stop. It literally is impossible with the way that the schedule works and with UEFA Nations League and the whole thing.
And us hosting, which we get an automatic bid.
And an automatic bid. And even if we did, people would still be crying about how we're only playing Mexico and Canada. And Mexico doesn't even count anymore. They're on the same level as Panama. But Panama beats us, so they're below Panama. We don't lose to Mexico anymore. Panama can drop their red, white, and blue danglies on El Tri. So enough with we need meaningful games. It doesn't exist anymore, which is why I also said at the top of the podcast, you play who you can play. That's why every single window is important. It is an opportunity for the guys to be together, whether it's Mikey Varas or Sam or me coaching the team. It's important that they're playing together. Doesn't matter.
Checking the score on El Triste. They are tied 0-0 with Canada.
I love that.
Halftime.
Good.
That was pretty much it. Let's see. They're the only other one. Chris Pacheco, embarrassing window, but the new era starts now. Next window is as important as ever. Could not be more. Go. Anything else? I mean, listen, we've given our very few flowers. We've given a few golf claps. We've talked about the people who did not cover themselves in glory this week, or a week and a half. And listen, this next window, October.
I want to build off the last. Who was the last person who you just read out? You don't need to pull it back up, but whoever said that, Pacheco. Every window we have in between now and 2026, each window is more important than the next. And I'm not trying to be dramatic, and I'm not trying to give you a Rocky pump-up speech. I'm not trying to make a Hoosiers speech right now. Every window is important. The September window in 2025 is important. Every window means something, whether it's building off the back end of our roster, if you are going to roll out a B team for the January window. Every window means something. Because this got done so late, because we've been wasting our time with Greg for the past however many years after he got hired again, every window matters. It's as simple as that. And if they're playing in your city, go to the game. Go to the game.
Soccer, make the tickets affordable. God
also
damn it.
Also that. I'm just, like, I hate, I had people texting me in Cincinnati, and I'm in Chicago right now, and that's why I didn't go to the game. I just had people text me being like, it's fucking dead here. It's a chance to see the national team.
Didn't seem to care.
Man.
Why would the fans?
I get that that's all rolled into it. I do.
Last comment just came in. Matthew Mane. I'm not excited for the future of this team. I've watched every game. I see no heart. Poach, the players, the federation will have to make me believe again because this team has consistently underperformed since the World Cup. I mean,
I think I can confidently say I've lowered my expectations in terms of what this
no
group is
lies
capable of.
there. No I'm not signing on to that. I still have high expectations. I do think we're in a tough spot. And I do think it's been like we're what's up, Shannon? Listen, we've been in a weird sort of purgatory, right? With a coach that wasn't necessarily the best fit. Everybody just hated him. The fans.
That is a mighty optimistic way to look at all of this.
I'm always looking at it. That's how I live.
No, but you're saying that everything that's happened under Greg should basically be forgotten.
No, not at all. I do think that it's all part of the holistic picture
the
here.
The learning process.
Yes,
yeah.
And we're building, and yes, we're not.
Pochettino the rabbi to finally give the bar mitzvah to all of our soldiers?
Wow, that's quite an analogy. I say yes. I'm completely drinking the Kool-Aid. I'm swimming in the Kool-Aid.
The Manischewitz.
I'm swimming in the Manischewitz right now.
For those of you who don't know, that's kosher wine that we drink on Passover. Shout out to my members of the tribe, my Jewish Sam fam.
Oh, shout out!
Not to make this a religious or political podcast, but I am your political and religious correspondent at this point in time.
You get to do that. You get to do that. I'm not drinking the Manischewitz. I'm swimming in it, and just like our 4-year-old, when I saw her in the pool the other day, literally just like drinking the pool water. That's what I'm doing. I'm just trying to drink all the Manischewitz. I'm ready. I'm excited. This is how I live my life. Okay, I'm optimistic to the core, and I think that this team is incredibly talented. Obviously, just like Mane said, like, yeah, we need to see some heart. We need to see some want, some desire, some grit. The team has grit, right? You got guys like McKennie. You got guys like Tyler Adams, assuming they're both healthy. You got guys like Pulisic. We got dogs. Get out there and do it. And I know they can. I think that Poch is the guy to get the most out of them.
He's the rabbi. Rabbi Pochettino.
He's the rabbi Poch.
A lot of Jews in Argentina, by the way. Not a lot. Not a lot.
A few.
Yeah.
There's a few, apparently.
I'm sorry. Is this your podcast? No.
Listen. We can leave it there. I'm excited. I know that this window, it sucked. This window sucked.
Brutal.
The only good thing to say, we got Pochettino. Thank God, too.
We finally got him to sign the dotted line. Finally.
I'll be honest with you. I was starting to get
it was squeaky bum time.
I didn't want to say it out loud because I felt like that would be putting it out in the universe.
Oh, so Mr. Optimist has been blindly saying optimistic things and actually believes some negative things. Oh, would you look at that?
I mean, that's what optimism is. You just bury it way down deep.
You actually have to believe it for it to be
realist, as an optimist who is a realist, you have to just take it and bury it and ignore it forever and never and ever and ever. And that's where I'm at right now.
By the way, it's getting real in your relationship when she just could not give zero fucks about being in the background of the podcast anymore. At the beginning of the relationship, she didn't want to come anywhere near the camera. She was like so timid, tiptoeing around. Can I come in? Is it okay? Now it's just like
I don't give a
zero fucks given. Zero.
On the other hand, you're also in a hotel room. So it's not really her fault.
Limited space. Yeah.
Tyler, he's in a hotel room right now. He's out he's supposed to be doing other stuff, but we had to record emergency pod. So everybody give Tyler his flowers, golf claps. You and Mikey Varas both get golf claps here.
No, Mikey didn't get it. Marlon Fosse. Me and Marlon Fosse both for our hair. Mine's pharmaceutically enhanced and his is not.
I gotta work on this angle. I got like this turkey neck every time I laugh. It's
gross.
Yeah. Don't. Right. Nobody go on YouTube. Nobody. Absolutely nobody. Do we leave it there? Listen, I'm excited. I don't care. This window sucked. It sucked. But you know what?
September window always sucks. This one sucked just a little bit harder.
Just a little bit more.
A little bit harder.
Remember this. We're down bad. There's only one way to go. Okay? We're going up. Yes, we're down bad. No doubt. But we got Poch.
Okay.
Rabbi Poch. We're going up. Oh, Tyler, you're the best. Thanks for hopping on. We will be back. We'll be back actually very soon. We got a big weekend coming up. North
We
London
do.
Derby, and some of our international soccer haters, aka Mikey Fowler, who is excited to talk about that, even though he hated the window. Even before Morten Nordgaard went down, he was already talking shit about it. Now it's even worse. Poor guy. I feel really bad about that. Don't root for injuries, but shit
Feel
happens.
terrible.
Shit
Feel
happens.
terrible.
Xiaomin's son just scoring bangers and Martin Odegaard goes down. Dang, that stinks. Anyway, Tyler, you're the best. Everybody, thank you for listening. Things are looking up, okay? We're trending in the right direction. We haven't started trending, but we're gonna start trending soon, okay? Trust me on that. So we'll be back with the weekend preview of the Premier League and everything else very soon. And see you guys then. Bigger, better, faster, stronger. We're out. Cheers, guys.